To lead in a world that never stops evolving, you need insights from those who are driving change. Welcome to Breakthrough Innovations, where we bring together the top leaders and innovators who are reshaping their industries. I'm JL Heather, the Principal Executive Coach at Center, and in each episode I sit down with game-changing executives who share the strategies, insights, and challenges that fuel their success. In the next 20 minutes, you'll gain practical takeaways to drive your own breakthroughs. So if you're ready to stay ahead, join us here on Breakthrough Innovations. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Breakthrough Innovation. With us today is my co-host, Preston Chandler, and our guest, Mike Wahl, the VP of Technology and Head of AI for Tweddle Group. With extensive experience in software, DevOps engineering, and generative AI, Mike leads global teams driving cutting-edge advancements in industries like manufacturing and automotive. Originally from Michigan, Mike has studied at Loyola University Chicago and other prestigious institutions across Detroit and Utah. A true global professional, Mike has worked in Asia and Europe, bringing a wealth of international perspective to his role. Beyond his leadership in AI strategy and implementation, he's an AWS community builder, passionate about making complex AI concepts accessible through education, courses, and thought leadership. Mike has an impressive journey in innovation, including everything from harnessing AI for business efficiency to cultivating a 1,500-day streak of personal productivity. Mike, excited to have you here. We're thrilled to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for the welcome, and that was quite an introduction.
Yeah, no, I try and make them good. Now, we always start in the same place, Mike, so hopefully you can tell us a little bit about who you are, where you come from, and how you got to your current role.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Detroit, or from a suburb of Detroit in Michigan. So did leave Michigan for a bit to go to school. I'm in Chicago, and then returned to up to Michigan. Yeah, so but originally from Michigan, Detroit, Michigan. And so I think your other question was about how did I get started, or?
Yeah, how did you get to your current role? What led you here?
So my background is in consulting and in healthcare. And then more recently has been in manufacturing and automotive. But I sort of came up, and maybe this is unique, but I think I hear the story, came up as an engineer. And then just, sort of over time and, experiences and curiosity and a whole bunch of different things that maybe we'll get to, made that transition over from a, individual contributor to a people leader, and for a whole bunch of reasons and interests of wanting to do that. And so here I am today as you said, VP of Technology and Head of AI. And so, excited to dive in here.
Awesome. Yeah, no, and I think it is a common story seeing people kind of start out as that individual contributor and making that jump to people leadership and eventually even entrepreneurship and things like that. I think it's always interesting to dive in and see kind of what led to that. And knowing that your career has spanned so many industries and roles, I'm curious, what are the key moments or decisions that really shaped your journey as an innovative leader and your approach to innovation?
Yeah, so I would say, for me personally, continuous learning is a huge interest, and it's something that, for me, went back and finished my MBA, something I'm always, interested in. Hey, I need to learn this, new thing or this new way of doing something. And so there's that kind of, internal curiosity or hunger to learn. I think the other part too is that, and again, maybe this is more personal, but not settling, in other words, for, kind of status quo, or settling for, okay, this is the way that something is today, but how could it be different in the future? Or how could we do this, in a more efficient or a, more technology driven way? So I think those are kind of attributes personally I'm saying for myself that not everybody has, and that's totally fine, by the way, too. But I think those shape kind of your career and your trajectory as you decide kind of where am I going to go next.
I think that that's actually a fairly common thread among the people that we have on this podcast. To your point, I don't know that it's all that common in the rest of the work world, but we talk to a lot of people who have that drive for learning and they don't accept the status quo. I'm going to butcher the quote, but one of my favorite quotes from George Bernard Shaw, he talks about the reasonable man. He says that the reasonable man basically changes to fit the world, and the unreasonable man persists in seeking to change the world to fit his needs. Therefore, all changes because of the unreasonable man. And so I think as we look at people in this innovation space, I think we're all somewhat unreasonable.
I think that's Preston just justifying his behavior, but no, just kidding.
Well, and I think some of the engineering behaviors too, if I'm totally honest, from the very beginnings of my career too, is we're never content with, okay, as an engineer, this works today, this is functional, this meets, spec and requirement. Could it be better, faster, whatever it is? Yes to all that. And so we have to kind of fight that tendency we want to innovate, but hey, this works today. And there's that sort of inner working of the engineer that's like, yeah, but it could be better. It could be even 1% better, right? So
no, I think that's fantastic. I know also, so I have a computer science degree. I do feel like engineers, computer scientists, they have a tendency to want to go out into the world and see what they can break so they can fix it. But I think a lot of them also go out into the professional life and then realize their more technical degree didn't necessarily prepare them for the more business or social aspects of real work.
That's true.
So that continuous learning combined with that willingness to fail, break things, and then make them better, I think that's a little bit of a hallmark of your most successful engineers.
Yeah.
So in the beginning of this, Mike, you mentioned the 1,500-day streak, the healthy routines, the personal productivity, and you haven't told me anything about it, and that's on purpose because I wanted to hear it fresh.
Yeah.
So tell me, like, what is this routine and how has it influenced your approach to leadership or innovation?
Okay, so this isn't a plug for AI or generative AI, but this is very deeply rooted in that, kind of thought for a second. That kind of streak goes back to whether it's, personal finance, whether it's health, whether it's, my career. It's sort of shifting mind into saying, okay, how can I do this particular task, this particular thing that I've got to do today? And then how is AI going to help me do this task? And so that sort of goes into that streak of, it may not be 100%, it may not work every single time, but it's I want to try to ingrain, I want to try to envelope AI into this thing that I'm doing. And so, sort of hence this streak of, I literally have a Post-it and a reminder twice a day telling me, have I used AI in this thing that I've got to do today. And so that's sort of, again, not to plug for AI or Gen AI, but that's sort of what's behind that. There's a ton to unpack. Honestly, I think we could probably talk for an hour and go deeper into that, but there's been good days of that and there's not so good days of that. But I think, nonetheless, it's a streak of, I've done this for 1,000+ days and had this result or that result out of it.
I mean, you talked about this as productivity, but just as you phrased that, it made me think of experimentation. You're experimenting, you're trying something different. And to your point, some days are going to be better than other days.
Right.
And I think that is so important of just being willing to go and try something out and say, I don't know what the result will be. And they don't have to be big experiments.
Right.
I'd love to hear what was a recent experiment that you did, or what was something you recently tried?
I think there's a lot of them, and some of them, were like crash and burn and failures. I'm trying to remember. And by the way, too, so my wife, she hears me talk about, a lot of generative AI or a lot of AI stuff multiple times a day and probably, more than she wants to. But I'm trying to remember, there was something, I think, honestly, this was in December, we were talking about, health goals and kind of what we were going to do around exercise and diet, and like not our whole family, but just kind of her and I. And so one of the things that we did was to say, okay, here's my goal in terms of, I want to lose this amount of weight. I want to change this kind of diet. Here's kind of what we typically do, in terms of activity or the activity. Here's kind of what our, diet is as a family. And, I need AI or AI help me. Like, let's work together to develop this kind of diet or this not diet, but, plan. Right. And so I think it got it 100% in terms of what the menu, if you will, or kind of shopping list. What I think it didn't quite get, and again, a lot of this has to do with context, is it kind of assumed that or my wife even, like, we were interested in doing this particular, regimen or this kind of exercise routine. And I kind of made the mistake of not telling it, hey, these are the things that I don't want to do. Don't suggest that I need to do like 50 burpees and I don't want to do those.
Yeah.
So, but what's kind of cool though is, through some kind of back and forth or some, tweaking and some, dialogue, it becomes this, okay, I understand this is what you don't want to do. Well, how about this thing, that thing, and that thing? And it's like, you know what? There was things that I've never even heard about from a physical or from an exercise standpoint that are interesting. I wouldn't have thought of them on my own. And so that's that kind of, surprise or that serendipity that you get with AI sometimes where it's like, I didn't even think about that. But you know what? That's awesome. And I would like to do that. So there's a bazillion other examples too. I feel like I'm on the spot to like give you not the good examples. I want to give you a bad one. I'm not thinking of one that stands out where it's like just totally crashed and burned.
Well, I mean, even in the example you did give, I think what's relevant is the quality of your output depends heavily on the quality of your input. And I love the idea of don't only include what you want, but then also give some parameters on what you don't want, just to make sure you can really constrain the answer. And then the last thing is that I always like to think about with AI, since it has been known to hallucinate every once in a while, is I want to make sure I'm always asking about things that I have a way to validate or verify.
Just one more thought that I was thinking about too is I think that we as a, whether it's engineers or leadership even, like have a tendency to spend a lot of our thought and time on I'm a big fan of the 75-25 or 80-20 rule. So like we spend a lot of time in the 80% where it's like, hey, I'm going to go and make this email better. I'm going to go and make this, slide deck better. I'm going to, and really it's that 20% where we don't focus and we don't leverage AI or we don't leverage, that technology where that has the biggest value. And just for whatever reason, it's like, here we're spending 80% of our time on this thing that I don't know how, I'm just going to say it. It doesn't really matter. Like it's not really,
absolutely.
It's not really driving the business. It's not really driving the technology. It's not innovative. It's just kind of like, we're just going through the motions of kind of revalidating like this sounds good, like, and it looks good. And then we're ignoring kind of the 20%, which by the way, is a really, really, hard stuff, but it's really where I think, leveraging, some of this technology or, AI it would give you perspectives and thought and ideas that you need in that 20% that you're not even thinking about.
Yeah.
So anyways.
So as we're kind of getting close to the end of the episode here, I'm curious, what is your advice for senior leaders, executives who are looking to integrate more AI into their way they live their life, the way they run their business?
Okay, so it's going to probably sound strange, but because, in innovation or in technology, but we got to keep it simple. We got to keep things simple. We got to slow them down and be prepared and look, like this takes a lot of work and a lot of planning to be able to scale and to be able to build up, when things do go well. But I think there's a tendency to try to just take the hardest use case, take the hardest problems on day one. And then, it's like now all of a sudden you have this, you want to think big and think huge and, really, kind of take anything from an ideation, but it's got to be manageable enough that you can actually get through it and, achieve results. Otherwise it's like, this doesn't work. So like, I don't know if that resonates or if that makes sense, but I think those are the three kind of buckets for sure. That I'm always kind of reminding myself of that, like mental Post-it note of keep it simple, right? Put in the work and do the planning. But then we also don't want to like dumb it down so that we're not, kind of thinking about, those big ideas and getting lost and just kind of the minutia of better emails, better presentations. Like it's way more than that.
To tie some of that together, it sounds like what you're saying is find the most valuable little things to do, the things that are actually going to make an impact, instead of thinking that you have to do some massive system And I've certainly seen that in a number of companies where they try to put this massive system together and it just completely flops because it's too big, it's too complex.
It's like needing to, again, back to the 75-25 or the 80-20, that inverse of we turn it upside down. And it's like really all of a sudden that 20% is the root. That 20% is so important. The 80%, like it's all there and it's a lot of activity and, it's a lot of stuff. But is the value there or not? And, each one of these is going to be a little bit different, I suppose, too, in use cases, organizations, teams, people's journeys up to this point. All this stuff's different, but those are probably the kind of 3 or 4-ish.
No, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
We do need to start wrapping up, Mike. If our listeners want to get into contact with you, collaborate with you, what's the best way to reach out?
So I am very active and pretty heavy on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I think is, I've got a link to a website as well, but I'm on all the socials, but just, really LinkedIn is the best place.
We agree. That's where we live as well. So that works out great. Mike, thank you so much for being here for the great conversation. We've been grateful to have the chance to talk to you and benefit from your insights. For everyone else who's joined us all the way to the end, if today's episode brought you value, please consider leaving it a rating or review wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you know anyone who's in the market for some productivity hacks, maybe starting their own 1,500-day streak, share this episode with them and let's bring them a little bit of value as well. And then lastly, remember to take one actionable insight from today, apply it, and let us know how it goes because we'd love to hear about your 1,500-day streak. So thanks again, Mike. Thank you, Preston. And we'll see you all next time on Breakthrough Innovation.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.